Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the July 2022 session of the Richmond Art Gallery's Artist Salon series. My name is Kathy Tycholis. I'm the Richmond Art Gallery's Education and Public Programs Coordinator. And on behalf of the Richmond Art Gallery Association, I would like to welcome you to this program that takes place on the ancestral territories of the Hakka speaking peoples. In a few moments, I will welcome our guest artist, Edward Fu-Chen Juan, for a presentation and a Q&A with you. But before we begin, I just wanted to go through a few housekeeping notes. For those of you who are new to the Artist Salon, this program is a monthly series of talks by arts professionals held on the last Wednesday evening of each month. The goal of this program is to offer visual artists a mix of professional development tips, community building, inspiration, and just to help artists continue to making your work and to grow your art practice. The Salon also exists as a Facebook group, which provides resources for artists in the Lower Mainland, which posts about artist calls, professional development opportunities, local arts events, and serves as a space for our visual artist community to connect together. So you can find out more about the Facebook group as well as view past sessions of the Artist Salon series by visiting the Richmond Art Gallery's website, which is at richmondartgallery.org. So with housekeeping out of the way, we are ready for an exciting talk tonight. I would like to introduce our guest, Edward Fu-Chen Juan. Edward is a visual artist based in Vancouver, BC, otherwise known as the unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. He identifies as a queer Taiwanese Canadian with ethnic roots from the Hakka and the Plains First Nation people of Taiwan. His focus is to cultivate connection between traditional techniques and contemporary values, with the objective to advocate for more ecologically sustainable practice. Now, some of you may have met Edward recently in various parks in Richmond. He has been offering talks and hand-dong workshops as part of Richmond's public art residency this summer. I was lucky enough to work with him just this past Saturday with the Printmaking for Pride event, which was part of Richmond Pride Week. It was really great to work with him and get the Richmond Art Gallery printing press out and in action after it being hidden away in a closet for years. And it was great for us to work with our local community and using some homemade natural inks that Edward had made for printmaking. I had also heard that Edward had previously had a very successful design business that he's kind of put on pause while he's doing these more community-based residency projects. So that is why I thought he'd be such a great guest for you all tonight. He can speak to both the commercial side of things as well as the more public practice, community-based residency types projects. So he's really that bridge between both worlds. And as you working artists out there know, both of those require a lot of admin, a lot of organization. And Edward was very generous. He said, I can offer some tips on all of that. So I thought he would be a great guest for you all tonight. Again, please send your new questions throughout and we will try to get to them at the end of the session. So without any further ado, I just want to welcome you, Edward, and I will leave the stage to you.
Okay, so I'm going to get started just with a visual presentation and then we'll move on towards question and answer session. So I'm going to keep on the time. Okay, can everybody see this? I'm assuming everyone can see this, right? Okay. So my name is Edward Fu-Chen Juan. Thanks for having me here. And here for the Artist Talk Salon for the Richmond Art Gallery. So I just want to start talking about me as a journey as an artist. So how I went from something more commercial artist, which I still do practice, but 75 or 80% of my time is actually in my fine art now. So that kind of gradually changed throughout the last 10 years of my career. Before that, I was working in the film industry for another 15, 12 years. So, I just want to get started here. So I just want to say hello. I speak 4 languages. Hello, hola, jiaba, and sibao. So basically in Taiwan, we say in the afternoon, instead of saying good afternoon, we say, did you eat yet? So I just thought it would be cute to put that here. And there's me hiking, dying, foraging in the Bella Coola area recently. Okay, So I used to own a company called Force and Waves. It's basically a one-person company where I create designs of textile and paper products with almost 100% fair trade. At least I try my best to be fair, 100% fair trade. Or we make everything in-house as well. So I had like a full-time printmaker that works with me. And I also had a studio manager that works with me. And I had like interns from, Vancouver locally. So, and I would go around the world at trade shows like this and sell it wholesale. So kind of a way to working as a commercial artist with branding and also be able to sell on the market. This is a booth we built for the Toronto gift convention. So we go twice a year, actually. We go twice a year and we have wrapping paper. You can see there's tea towels, kitchen linen, postcards. Some of you might recognize some of the stuff. There's blankets, rugs, poster, everything that kind of is Force and Waves. That was like what I was doing for about 6 years. And I designed everything, I managed everything. I had a sales team that traveled with me to London, Amsterdam, New York, LA, and Toronto throughout the year. So, and we sell it to mostly wholesale stores. In Vancouver, it will be like Vancouver Special, or actually the Museum of Vancouver sold some of our stuff, Vancouver Art Gallery. But mostly I made my bread and butter in the States and Europe. So those companies out there, stores like really buys big. I think the biggest account I got in Canada was Simon's. I think they're like based in Montreal. They're a department store, so they carry a lot of the stuff. They did carry the stuff, Force and Waves stuff. Okay, and then here's some of the product I did. Yeah, a little badge and little postcards. We still screen with the postcard. We had them die cut. There's a blanket on the left that was made by a Mexican American family, and they use recycled yarn from old t-shirt and sweaters to make the blankets for us. And then on the right is just assortment of stuff. Yeah. Here's more blankets. Sorry, the photo is kind of low res, but here's some of the blankets. And then I did a project with the Remy Modern Museum in Saskatoon. And here's like a 3D printing card. It was just something fun to do. They were really popular. Yeah. And then, yeah, here's some more stuff. Kitchen linen, bills. This is cool. I got to work with this indigenous weaver in Oaxaca, Mexico. He's Zapotec, and he weaves. I went down there and designed with him on making natural dye and creating these rugs out of like wool, sheep wool. I actually learned how they ship the wool, how they was able to shear the wool, clean it, wind it, and then I helped dye them. I don't know how to weave, but I had to change the design working with the weaver, and it was a lot of back and forth, traveling back from here to Oaxaca. Look at it. I'm just very proud of this product. It's like beautiful. So yeah, it was a limited edition, just something I wanted to explore for a long time. Here's a studio. It's not very glamorous. I thought it would be cool to show this. This is the reality of everything you saw earlier. This is what my studio looked like with my staff. Like every day I walk into this mat house. And we do printing, we do weaving, we do everything in here and packaging and shipping orders. So this is like was my home for 6 years. It was in Chinatown. It was kind of insane. I did that. So and then on the side, outside of that, I also did a lot of freelance work as a designer. So I did a lot of illustration, just coming from a film animation background. So I did some beer can design for this company in Southern California that reached out to me. So I thought it was really cool to show you guys. On the left are the sketches, on the right is the actual finished product. And then this is something I was working with Ten Tree, the apparel company locally, but it never came to fruition. But I just want to show you guys, like, they approached me to kind of come up with like ideas and concept for them. So this is something I was working on with them. I thought it was really cool that they were really open to my sketches and just ideas. So I want to show you that. And then here's something I did last year. maybe some of you recognize this, but this is a sketch for Purdy's chocolate. So they wanted to celebrate Pride a year ago, literally a year ago from today. And they approached me to do something they never done before, where they feature an LGBTQ artist, and has to be locally Canadian. So they approached me and they said, would you be into designing a Pride edition chocolate box that would sell through the summer season? This was last year. So I said, yeah, sure, of course. So I kind of came up with this idea, and then here's the finished product. So it was just for last year. They no longer have these, but I still have the box, just myself. And I get to choose the chocolate. So that was really cool. I thought it was a really cool project I got to do. And it was in every Purdy's chocolate store throughout the country. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about how maybe 3.5 or 4 years ago, I actually went back to Oaxaca, Mexico to visit the weaver elder that I worked with to make those rugs. And I was telling him, I closed my business, and he knew that. And then after a while, I was just like, I kind of go back into printmaking, but I want to do more fine art printmaking. I just don't know what I want to do. So I thought maybe it would be a cool idea is to like use natural ingredients to print, but I'm having issues, and I just want to show you what I've done. And he just looked at my prints and he's like, oh, you could do better than this. Why don't I show you how to do it? And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he was just like, why don't you come and stay with me for a month, and I'll really teach you how to extract ink from natural ingredients that his own method that he's developed. And I was like, oh, even though it's dyeing yarn, but he and I discussed it. It's like, maybe we can use it to make a printable ink paste for printmaking. So I was like, sure. So here's the kind of everyday landscape I was at for a month while I was apprenticing under him. We would go out and forage. So this is him and his wife at his studio. It was really awesome, very gracious couple. And then they work everything from natural ingredients. And you can see on the left is the indigo that they would harvest, they would buy actually from local indigo farmers. In the back, it's actually the coccinea, which is the insect that you get red dye. So they would farm them, and I would help spread the larvae every few days and making sure the bugs are healthy. And I will also help them dye the yarn that they were going to weave for sale. They had a little eco-tourist store downstairs, so I was living upstairs with them. And then I never got to learn how to weave just because it's like a whole year of apprenticeship. And I was like, I'm not a weaver, I'm a printmaker. So I didn't want to do that. But I just thought it'd be cool to show you guys that. And then on the right is the part of the coccinea insect farm that I had to take care of. That was kind of like my job most of the time. And then also grinding them into red dye. So the red on the top left, on the left photo on the top right, there's like the indigo with the bugs dye as well, the coccinea red. It's pretty beautiful. Everything's natural dye. This is kind of like our everyday working palette, and I'll go into the forest with him, and he would point out the plants that they use traditionally for medicine, but mostly for dyeing. So like the yellow flower on the right, that is perdigon, which is a really famous type of marigold. It's not really, it's like an alpine marigold or yarrow that they use for thousands of years to dye yellow in the Zapotec culture. So it was really cool when I was there. It was the season to really forage them and farm them. So I was really keen on learning that from him as well. And then afterwards, my friend in Oaxaca was like, you should come over and maybe start experimenting in the city where the youth are also kind of wanting to do silkscreen printmaking with natural ingredients. So I will go back and forth from the village to the city and work with the local youth artists where they have a print studio I got to work with. And these are the couple that I really got to work with every few days on the weekends. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so that's kind of how how it started cultivating ideas for me about 4 years ago on, what I'm thinking about as a contemporary artist, what do I want to focus on? And I still keep in touch with all these guys, show what I've been doing, sending them prints, they send prints back to me. So it's been like a relationship I've been building. Even with COVID, we still keep in touch. Unfortunately, with COVID, also like we're supposed to do a more collaboration in person, but with COVID, we couldn't do that. So hopefully in the future. But with COVID doesn't mean I can't travel to kind of continue and develop this skill set. So I actually got a grant through UBC with this professor on the Okanagan, because I know kind of want to start in the Okanagan at one point, because that is the only desert in Canada, and there are definitely indigenous plant there that is only native to this one region in the entire country. So I wanted to go there, and I was able to be supported by the Canada Arts Council to go out there and do test printing. And I got to meet and hire a youth knowledge holder of the local indigenous First Nation. And this is Justin. He's showing me all the plants that he's also himself has been researching and kind of figuring out, not for ink, but for medicinal reasons. And he's trying to cultivate certain endangered plants. So I was kind of just telling him what I've been doing. So we're kind of, sharing ideas and knowledge. And it was really good to have him to be around to, guide me through this. So here's some of the other plants that I got to work with. And at the Okanagan, UBC Okanagan, I got to do a lot of print testing, silk screen, trying to figure out the formula. Here's some more plants. And at one point I was like, maybe I just want to dye the paper as well. And I was making paper by then through another apprenticeship. So I wanted to dye the paper that I've made. So I was trying that, and I was thinking maybe I can make prints out of the paper. This is all very like early days. This is like 2.5 years ago. So the first year of COVID. So I was kind of like, oh, okay, maybe I can try this and try that. It's just like so much time on my hand. Just thinking, dyeing paper and making prints. And then about a year and a half ago, I was invited by another Indigenous artist, Damien John. We had met through the BC Cultural Day ambassadorship program. So he was an ambassador alongside me, and we didn't really speak until after the Cultural Day. He kind of reached out to me on his own to say, Ed, I really want to learn how to make paper and printmaking. I'm out in Nelson. There's like not really any facility here. So would you be able to come and collaborate with me if we're able to get a grant? So I was like, sure, why not? So we did apply for one, and we got to do it a year later. So I was out in Ymir, actually outside in Nelson, at Ymir for about 2 weeks. So here's us foraging, and we kind of start playing with cedar paper, making our cedar paper. So you can kind of see this is like one of the first cedar paper I made on the right. It's really rough. It's not really printable. At the end of the day, we didn't want to just make paper. We wanted to make paper that is printable. So this is kind of the result of it. The first few sheet is really, really beautiful, but it's not really workable. It's too thin. It didn't bind well, but we keep it going. And eventually, after the last day, we were able to figure it out. And I was still kind of foraging local indigenous plant as well. That's like a mountain kootenai, hawthornberry on the left. Yeah. And then Damien made a lot of prints on the left, and then my print is on the right. So we're kind of like sharing ideas. So that was like really cool. Like got to like not just myself to teach him or instruct him this skill set. He was also able to show me the indigenous plant of the land in the area, and we kind of really collaborate intensively for 2 weeks, just exploring color and exploring material and cultural significance of the cedar. He would tell me stories. He himself comes from families who are survivors of the residential school. So it was something that he really think about, wanted to work on. Maybe we can come up with a concept as a response to the recovery of the unmarked graves. And it was just really emotional, but at the same time, it was very satisfying that we were, kind of exchanging ideas through something such a difficult topic. And I came home. This is my backyard. So then I started making more paper, because I was like, oh man, maybe we should make a stack of cedar paper. This is last summer. And, I don't have a studio. I just work from home, so I only make paper in the summer just because it's the best time to dry. So this is like just how I make paper. On the right, it's like a stack of beautiful different, I was kind of experimenting how the paper maybe with a little bit of cotton, a little bit with the banana palm apricot, or maybe a little bit of hemp. I was trying to figure out like what consistency is the best to print on the paper. So kind of did figure it out at the end. Another residency I did last year was in the fall. I went to Newfoundland for the first time. Another place that with plants that doesn't really exist anywhere else. So just so happened I was there in September and it was berry season. And so I just literally make ink from berries and, you know, certain wild plants as well. There was a print studio there. That's how I got there. The studio accepted my proposal. Print studio, St. Michael's. They were really interested in what I was working on, experimenting. So I was able to create ink there, really supported by Christine, the director of the studio. And yeah, so here's some pictures of just beautiful stuff I was able to bring back and continue to work with. And this is how kind of like how I work as a fine artist. Before, when I was printmaking as a commercial artist, I would actually print out all the images on the film, because I would draw on a computer and print it out and then print it, silk screen it. But as a fine artist, I wanted to approach it really hands-on since I was already making the ink. Sometimes I make the paper print out as well. So I thought maybe I should just also draw on the film, approach it like a painter, kind of like plein air almost. So I would do a sketch and I would literally draw every layer. And I would print one layer, then I would draw on top of that, then print another one, rather than like planning it all out at once, which is what most sales printmakers do. So that way everything's really organic feel. So I usually use Chinese sumi ink to do the painting, to do the black shades, the drawing from the film, to do silk screen on the right. So like I would expose that from the left to the right, and I would silk screen it, and this is the image you would get. And they're all organic, not organic, they're all natural color pigments from this one bog out in like northwest Newfoundland, where I was at near Snatney, or the locals have Snatney, it's called St. Anthony. So yeah. And then I kind of created more prints out of the cedar paper once I got the consistency right. So I wanted to create these spirit money as a response. In Taiwan and a lot of Asia countries, they create spirit paper money to burn as a charm or as a memorial to the ancestor. So I wanted to do something like that as a response with Damien. So Damien created some, I created some. So this is what I've done so far. So I thought it would look really awesome. And this is made with Newfoundland huckleberries, I think. Yeah. And the yellow is another piece of paper I dyed. Then I Sgsmåklé, which is just in Chinese glue, printed over on top. So it's two paper actually. Yeah. So here's a variety. Yeah. And then I burned some of them because that's tradition. That's what we're supposed to do. So I kind of had an artist talk in Newfoundland, and I invited local people to come out to burn the artwork with me. And I told everybody to think about like a loss or but it was just like, you know, it was last year, so it was still the very in depth of the pandemic. So I wanted everyone to think about maybe we lost somebody, or maybe you want to burn it for your ancestor or something. And some people got pretty emotional. So it was the first time we did that just on the parking lot. I don't think it was legal, but the director, Christine, was like, just do it. Let's just do it real quick. I thought it was really cool. And the picture on the right is like the little remnants of the burnt artwork. You can still see the text on it. I thought it was really beautiful. Don't know how to preserve it. We just throw it out, but I thought it was really cool. Yeah. And then you saw earlier, I was kind of dyeing paper and kind of printing them on top of each other like a collage, and I hold up to the sky to see if it's transparent. Because I had this idea of like, I wanted to make lanterns. And I was already kind of thinking about it in contact with a lantern making family in Taiwan. They're like a Hakka marginalized minority in Taiwan. And I had reached out to them. They've been making lanterns for hundreds of years traditionally. And I was like, hey, I would love to buy some of your lanterns, but blank. And I would like to visit you guys. This is all before COVID. But with COVID, I was like, I still want to do it. So I made the paper to Sgsmåklé or just collage it onto the lantern. And it's completely handmade of bamboo and fiber, cotton fiber. So then I just glue on top. Traditionally, they don't print on the lantern. They actually paint the lantern. Everywhere, I thought they were printed too, but apparently no, they hand paint every single one of them. It's insane. Yeah. And I just kind of experimented the lighting. I was like, oh, maybe I should live like this. And it looks really cool when it's lit. I'm like, oh my gosh. So all this work is actually being set up right now at the museum in Vancouver in Kits. So the opening is actually August 5th. And the show ends on November 7th. So if you're interested, go to the Museum Vancouver website. You get to see the complete series that I was able to put together. Yeah. So there's like 12 lanterns. Yeah. And also the paper money, I made like stacks of it. This is my recent trip, just coming back from Bella Coola. My friend just opened up this eco resort and she wanted artworks for a resort. And I've been wanting to go up to the rainforest. And she was like, why don't you come up, create some artworks for the resort? And I will put you in touch with the New Hawk First Nation elders and maybe they'll work with you. I was like, oh man, that would be cool. So then I contact with Clyde Talio. He's actually another young knowledge holder. And we met up and he kind of took me on a guide of like the New Hawk culture and also like the indigenous plant. He was really interested in what I was doing. So this is like the landscape, so beautiful. By the way, it was like completely filled with mosquito. The picture doesn't show it, but I got destroyed by mosquito. It was so scary. Anyway, so I got to work with a lot of mushrooms, berries. This is literally like last month. It was so intense. Just like 10 days of this, just like collecting and foraging and getting guided by the indigenous knowledge holders and also experimenting with ink. It was also the season when the river was really, really high. So because of the snow melt, and every night we just heard cottonwood just falling everywhere. And all I could think about was like, oh, I would love to use the cottonwood to make paper. That would be so cool. So I actually collected cottonwood to make the fluff. I went on the ground by the river, picking them one by one, cleaning them one by one, making sure there's no bears around me. This is bear country. And then I was able to make cottonwood paper, just to experiment. But, it's not really printable yet or usable, but once I have time, I'm going to start like actually utilize it properly. But it was so hot. It was the first heat wave in BC. So everything dries super fast, which is awesome. I could make paper within like 3 hours. Usually it takes like 2 days to dry in the summer in Vancouver even. So it's a beautiful paper. I was able to create a small stack with it. Yeah. Okay. That's pretty much it. So thank you so much. Sorry, I did not see the chat room if there was any questions, but I'm assuming there wasn't. Oh, there wasn't. Okay. So this is kind of like my journey as a fine artist. And I'm still learning after these years. I'm still, figuring out like what my process is. And I think that is like the fun part of it and what motivates me. And there isn't one style I'm working towards. I'm still so much to explore and so much to learn, I guess. But at the end of the day, I know I'm a printmaker first, and then a paper maker and ink maker second. So everything I do is for the prints. That's kind of like my guide. And my second guide was like just trying to find connections between traditional techniques with contemporary point of view. So that was like something really, really, really want to work with. All these beautiful techniques that are seen to be kind of categorized as crafts or seem as like, artisanal rather than fine art techniques. I don't think there should be a difference. So that's kind of like what I really want to find the connection is to use traditional skill set that are, paper making and ink making. How do I, use that in a contemporary point of view, as a modern way of art practice? Because just like there's so much departure from, utilizing natural ingredients. I find like, some people has like told me it's like, oh, it's like a really sustainable way of making your art. I'm like, yeah, that is true, but it's really not sustainable because I only use indigenous plants of like the region wherever I'm at. And sometimes the indigenous plants are really hard to find. They're not endangered. They're just not easy to find. And they're very seasonal. I don't know how sustainable it is, but maybe that is like part of the story is that I make the artwork and the color is seasonal. So I only able to work with certain things a certain time, unless I freeze the ingredients or dry them. But even then, it's not going to be the same result. So yeah. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Oh, hi, Joanne. Thank you for the, I'm going to write this down. Thank you for the beautiful note. I love that. Okay, let me just copy and paste that.
Well, thanks, everyone. I don't think everyone can see the questions that Ed is referring to. So just comments in the Q&A. Joanne said Tsimshian weavers used wolf moss to make yellow in their Chilkat woven robes. Well, actually, Claudine kind of refers to the question I was going to ask. So maybe I'll just ask Claudine's question. So hi, thanks for the talk, love your work. How do you fund your art practice? Subventions, money saved from your previous company? And I was kind of wondering, like,
yeah,
it feels like you had this moment where you decided to shift gears. And so how did you make that leap? Because I think for a lot of artists, that's really tough and scary.
Yeah, it was intense. Like it took me about a year to like slowly, gradually. I think I'm still kind of in the middle a little bit, but more so in fine art now this year, I would say. I say taking the lead was just like, there's no one day I just said, I'm not doing any more commercial work. Like I still do. Like, you know, I'm actually doing some part-time work for Google of all things, and they pay super well. So otherwise I wouldn't work for them just for part-time. And like, that's just like a short contract of like few weeks. And so that really helps. So I do a lot of like commercial freelance work still, not necessarily still in the film industry, just because I have a connection there. That's what I went to university for. But I did a minor in printmaking, but like I also get a lot of work through like editorial publishers, like who have worked with me, newspaper or magazines, and everybody, I would say nine out of 10 people I work with has been just so awesome. And we like to say and think that I'm a pretty cool person to work with, and I'm very responsive and fast. I draw really, really fast as a commercial artist. That's like my strength, I say. So I know that I can deliver everything on time. One of the things I find challenging is scheduling. So I have to make time for my commercial work and make time to fine art work. And this sounds a bit crazy, but I actually write on my calendar, today you're making fine art. You're gonna print make today from 9 to 8 p.m. And doesn't mean I'll do it like 11 hours total, but like, you know, I save time for it. And it would be throughout, I have a Google Calendar that I like save time for my fine art. And even certain days I'll be like 2 weeks from like a proposal submission deadline, you have to start working today. Today is your writing day, or half a day is a writing day. And like, I will actually follow it. I'm pretty good about it. It sounds kind of robotic, but I can force myself to be like, today I'm gonna write grants. I hate it, but I'm gonna do it, you know? And it sounds kind of silly, but I actually handwrite all my grants first on paper, just like how I draw everything first. I always have a sketchbook with me, so I handwrite everything before I even jump on the computer or even go in the print studio or paper making. I always hand draw everything, just because like, it's just how my ideas, like I found that the best way for me to get my head onto the piece of paper. Yeah, whether like probably only I can read it because it's like a mess. So yeah, so I do a lot of freelance work, I guess. To upkeep. But recently I've been lucky enough to get quite a bit of grant money from the Canada Arts Council that I actually doesn't cost me to do any artist residency anymore. Okay, sorry, let me rephrase that. I've only one, my first residency was the only one that actually cost me money, actually quite a bit. But after that I was like, I'm gonna try my best and make sure it's all break even. And it's been like that since. So yeah, you just have to work hard. Yeah. And also smart, I guess.
Well, I think that's common too. Generally speaking, once you get one, then sort of granting bodies trust you in some way, and they will tend to fund you more often. And sort of once you get the grant, it's easier to get another grant, that type of thing. um, in some ways. I mean, not always,
sometimes
but
that's not fully true. Yeah. Another suggestion I have is I have two amazing mentors, two veteran artists who I really admire, and I met them through the printmaking community in Vancouver. One of them is Japanese Canadian Tomoyo Ihaya. The other one is Bridget Pottermall. You guys can look them up. They're just two incredible artists, and I really look up to them. And they've helped me so much tremendously with like grant writing and really telling me this is important. You need to like emphasis on this aspect of your art practice, because they're veterans and they're older, much older than me, and maybe not Tomoyo, I shouldn't say that, but like they've done it longer than I have, and they've done international shows and everywhere, and their work is very important. Like I just really admired them, and I was already their friends beforehand, and I kind of did tell them one day, I was like, each person separately, I'm like, I would love it if you can help me out, and I would love it if you can be my mentor in this aspect. And they both have said yes. I mean, very humbly, they're like, no, I don't have anything to help you with. And I'm like, that's not true. You have so much to help me with. So I think having a mentor, confidant, multiple mentors could be helpful. Your community is like your strength. Yeah. So I think that's super hard. And then it's like the question is like, how do you find a mentor? Get involved in the art community. You meet people that way. Go to art shows, go to openings. If you love an artist's work, go up and tell them. I do that all the time. Like I'm like, oh, your work really is powerful, moves me in this way, blah, blah, blah. I might sound like a stooge at the time, but it's generally, I have a reaction to an art piece or and even music or performance art. Like I would tell the artist, I'll do an effort to like even email them, because I really think it's good to have some artists needs to hear that too, that it affected another person. Yeah.
sure. And I don't think artists hear that enough from their audience. Not every artist gets to meet their audience. So I do think that's really important. Someone's asking if you could put those names of your mentors in the chat. Just
yeah,
because,
sure. I just did that.
The captioning is not the greatest on this. Okay.
So it's Brigida Pottermall and Tomoyo Ihaya. I just put in the chat. So
great.
Yeah.
Great. So my other question too is just, I guess, in terms of, it sounds like your first residency was kind of just meeting the right person at the right time as well. Like, do you think, like, do you have any suggestions for people just in terms of how they might get started just to apply for residencies?
Yeah, so it seems like I'm getting all the residency. I'm not. I applied to a lot and I get a lot of no's. I apply to all the grants that I think I want to get and I actually don't get. So I think it's important to not focus on too much of like writing about, it's important to talk about your work, but in writing proposals for anything, I think it's important to write about, like, talk about your work, but actually your work is 90% of what it should be, and sometimes we artists spend so much time on artwork, we don't have, like me, I'm that person, I don't have enough time spent on the writing part, or learning how to talk about it. And I didn't know how to do that in the first place. Like I read some of the grants that I've written or proposal I've written that got rejected, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I wrote that. That is terrible. That happens all the time, actually every time. So, but I learn from mistakes, and I don't second guess ever. I try not to, actually, not ever, but I try not to second guess, like, why didn't I get this or get that? Like first day, sure, I'm emotional, whatever. But like 2 days later, like just drop it, Ed. Like, move forward. There's so much grants. A good suggestion I have for everybody is that if you really want to like get on top of like schedules, this is another like practical talk, but put the deadline on the schedules. Like I literally have, let's say, there's like a proposal deadline coming up. I saw on a website or something, or open call, and it's due in 4 weeks. I literally would plan out backward to, you're gonna submit this day, and then this day you're gonna you're gonna edit your images, and then this day you're gonna write, and then second draft, first draft, brainstorm. Like I actually plan out like that, maybe it's just the business side of me thinking like that, but I find it very helpful where I'm not sitting down and just be like, oh my God, do I have this image? I have that image. Where do I put that paper? Like, no, I actually create a folder with all of that together. So I think it's so important to do that because then you miss the deadline and you miss it, you miss it. Then you have to wait the next year. And sometimes residencies or proposals are just 1 year, one-time thing. So I think it's important to do that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, well, that's a great tip.
Yeah.
I've met many artists that have really full-time do residencies, and they often say the same things. They also say, you know, you apply for 100 and maybe you'll get 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So, you know,
oh yeah,
you're
for
just
sure.
playing the odds for sure. And
these are paid residency too.
Yeah.
Like they pay me to be there, and sometimes you have to apply for additional grants so you can go there, or sometimes you pay out of your pocket, and then you get there. Oh, they pay artist talks and workshops. Breaks even, right? So, but also I think it's important to think about, like, for any proposal you write, like the venue, the space, if it's not a residency, an exhibition, or a research project, like think about, it's like, is this what I want? Is it a fit for me? Don't apply for it just because it's like available. Like, you know, I'm not going to apply for something locally because I have a big exhibition coming up in Museum Vancouver. I probably won't apply for any residency that is in the future for the next 5 years that is in Lower Mainland, or any exhibition in Lower Mainland, because I want to challenge myself, and not just challenge myself, but curators in any galleries, especially nonprofit, they want to see you not contained to one geographical location. They want you to see you expanded further out. So that's not like possible for everybody, but if you can do it, why not? You know. So I think it's important to see beyond Vancouver and Richmond. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
We do have one question.
Yeah.
Thank you from Fatima. Thank you for your time, Edward. I recognize many of your illustrations from shopping at Simon's. How did you decide you wanted to transition from illustration design to paper printmaking? Did one of your mentors suggest it as a career option?
No, I think I did that. But my mentor told me you should do it. I doubted myself. So my mentor is like, yeah, that's what you should do. So I can say, let me see, what was that question again? Let me look at it. I had an idea. Okay, yeah. So the one thing my mentor also suggested I do was like do paper making. I didn't learn paper making until 3 years ago, and I got a grant to hire my mentor to teach me how to make paper. So that was awesome. And well, I remember now. So one thing I wanted to do was like start doubting myself. I was like, oh, should I go get a master's degree? Because I have a bachelor degree. So I was like, I'm in my mid-30s, like maybe I should get a master's degree. Maybe it's like the time, maybe UBC or wherever. I'm not going to move out of Vancouver. Like, I'm just not going to do that. So I have a family, like I have my husband here, and you know, like my life is here. I'm not willing to move again. So my mentor was like, they both have their masters, and they both told me not to go. But they all both went like in the 80s and 90s. So it's like a bit different, but they're both like kind of tell me like, okay, you need to write down why you want to go back to school, you know, and like, what do you want to get out of it? I think one of the biggest thing, one of the specific thing one of my mentors said was like, if you're gonna go to school and you want to learn a skill set, like I understand that, but that's not gonna happen in Vancouver. Like there's not enough specialty artists here. You have to go to Europe. And I was like, okay, I'm not gonna willing to move to Europe for 2 years and like go possibly into debt with my tuition. So, and my mentor was like, you know, Ed, that's the whole point of residency. It's like you go there for 2-3 weeks or 2 months or 6 months or even a year, the residency for a year. Like that's the whole point of it. You don't have to do that. Like just because you have a master doesn't mean you learn everything. And many artists, professional artists, do residency to specific places is to learn certain skills or to mentor or mentee certain people, apprentice. Like I think Cheryl Boyle, is that her name? She had a show at the Gardner Museum, amazing ceramic artist. She did a 6 months residency in France, learn how to make porcelain. And she's a super accomplished artist. Like, I never thought she, of course, like she didn't know how to do porcelain ceramic. She went to France to do it for 6 months or something, and came back and then continued to practice. But that was like, she's a super accomplished artist who had like shows at the Venice Biennale. Like, I assumed that she already knew how to do porcelain, but when I saw her show, she was like, no, I didn't know how to do it. It took me a couple of years to figure it out. Like, but she went to learn it. So through a residency, so that's why. Yeah. So
I've heard that from a lot of different artists. There's on the one hand the artists that feel like, oh, I really should have my master's. Maybe that's why I'm not getting the grant or getting the residency or getting the whatever. But I think exactly what you did, it seems to make so much more sense in talking to people that have been there, talking to people that maybe have a master's in something you want to do or something you're interested in, because they're going to be honest and tell you whether yes you should, whether no you shouldn't, because it is a huge investment of money and time.
Yeah.
And I get that question a lot from artists for sure. I've struggled with that question myself, but I think residencies have really sort of expanded so much in the last decade or so in terms of where you can go, what you can learn, how independent you can be or not in your residency. So they are just such a great learning tool. So for our audience out there, if you're interested, definitely start just doing some online simple Google searches and you'll find a ton of residencies for sure.
Yeah.
And
I would say also,
there's a plane show happening over me right now. I hope it's not too loud.
I don't really hear it. I don't hear it.
Good.
Yeah. I was gonna say is that like artist residency is also not vacation. Like it's not. It's like work for me. Like I work so hard every time I'm at an artist residency. I work like 12 hours, or I just don't sleep, or like I don't sightseeing actually. Like when I was in Newfoundland, like I didn't see anything. I was working. Like I did see stuff, but it was like hiking. Yeah. Like, when I was in the Kootenay, I didn't go a single hike. Like we just foraged around the lake and the river with the Damien. And like, I wasn't going to tell him, oh, I'm going to take a day off. Like, like we have the grant money. It's my one opportunity to be here to do this. So why do that? Like, I'll come back another time. So it's like work. To me, it's work. Like, it's not vacation. A lot of people think it's vacation. I'm like, no, I can't.
Not if you want to get something out of the residency.
Yeah. And I also set a goal for myself before and middle. So before I'll be like, okay, I want to do this and this and this. And I'll check in myself halfway through. Like I put on my calendar. I can't Google Calendar. I put on my calendar and I said, okay, what have I accomplished? And then I would literally sit there and like think about it and then ponder about it for a while. And I'll write it down. If there's another artist in a room, I'll talk to them about it. And that's the whole point of like, meeting other artists. And usually I try my best to create some artworks during my residency, whether or not it's complete. Usually I complete it, but it's not the perfect piece. And I'll go home and create the final piece. But most residency expect you to create something, right? No matter how short or how long. So and it's printmaking, so I have editions, so I always give them like 2 editions. It's actually required. You're required to give them 1 artist proof and 1 edition for the studio. So for historical records, so a lot of print studios does that. I don't know about other programmings, but so I kind of follow that through wherever I go. Yeah. So yeah.
Something else that came up when I met with you before the salon, when we were talking about it, was you have organized your writing enough that you are able to apply to last minute things.
Yeah.
So can you talk a bit about that? Because that is a great method, I think, that artists should adopt for sure.
So so I don't start from scratch ever in my grant writing or any writing. I actually will pull up the last 2 relevant writing of grants or proposal, whatever. And if it's rejected, it doesn't matter, I'll pull it out and I'll see what I wrote last time for this project. And it didn't get picked up, and I'm like, oh, the way I wrote my bio is really good. So I'll take that out and put in this submission and just like update it or correct a few things or reword it, because there's always something to be worked on. So that way I never actually rewrite anything from scratch. I just don't do that anymore because I have enough material after all these years, just 4 years, but still like, so that's a good way to, that's why I would say like organization is really important, like having folders of each submission. I have it by the year, 2020, 2019, 2022. And I actually have a folder for 2023 and 2024 because a lot of galleries and museums expect you to submit for 2024 right now. So everything is about a year or 2 years ahead. So it's crazy, I know, but like, that's the fine art world. You have to be okay with that. And like a lot of work I submitted for like this Museum Vancouver show, like they didn't expect this, the work I'm showing. They loved it, like it's put up today, but like they were like, this is, the curator was like, wait a second, this is not what you told me you were gonna show. And I was like, but that was like a year and a half ago. like I've changed as an artist, my work has developed. And they're like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, like they're totally understandable, like as a curator and directors of any places space, like, yeah, they rather see you develop than not. But you have to like make a, you have to, it's got to make sense. Like if I've gone in there and be like, oh, I give up printmaking, I'm painting now, that might be odd. Yeah, but I'm not going to do that. So yeah,
as long as you can explain it in some way and show the progression.
Yeah.
I mean, just from working at a gallery, yes, we do plan 2 years ahead.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is based on so we can apply for grants as well. You know, so we need, and then we will often ask the artist for some writing for that grant that we have to apply for as well. So any writing the artist can have is always super helpful. And if the work changes, I mean, usually the work in our gallery anyway, usually the work's not made at that point. It's rare that we will have like, this is the exact artwork we're showing 2 years from now. So yeah, curators roll with it and expect that to happen.
But Richmond Art Gallery is a gallery that's curator curation, like they approach artists. So like I had to show the Port Moody. So Museum Vancouver approached me, but like the one in Port Moody Art Center, I submitted for that. Yeah, and you guys should submit too, because Janice is the curator there. Janice, she's awesome. Janet Cutter, she's great to work with. She was very resourceful and very passionate. Yeah, that's not always the case.
Yeah, but I mean, it's good for you as an artist to be prepared for that, because there's different, every gallery is different, every gallery works differently, and again, whether you're proposing an exhibition or whether they're coming to you and saying, hey, let's work on an exhibition.
Documentation is super key, you guys. Organization is key, calendar, organization, but documentation is so important. Like document all your shows. You know, I bought a used nice SLR camera. I have to go into the museum in the next few days and just take pictures of it, because I can rely on anybody else to do it. The museum might do it, they probably will, but like I'm gonna do my own, and all my artworks are documented. Like I actually use my aeroplan points because we couldn't travel, right? So I used my airplane point and got a bunch of Amazon gift card, and I bought a lighting set, a studio lighting set for my bedroom, where I would take out of my closet and I light out my bedroom and put my artwork on the wall. And that's how I document, like, you know, like you do what you have to do, right? So, and I just asked a friend who was a lighting expert. I was like, hey, what light should I buy? And then he was like, oh, you should get this one. This is the, you know, so yeah, so like you do what you have to do. All my artworks are stored under my bed and closet, like flat, not rolled out, because you can't roll out print. You're not allowed to. That's a big no-no. So I store everything. I don't have a personal studio anymore. I actually don't want to. I print out. I have a cabinet and a drawer at Musqueam Printmakers on Granville Island. So it's a nonprofit for printmakers. So I volunteer there, but I also pay an annual fee of $2,200 to do it. But that is so cheap, like $200 a month, less than $200 a month. Like, you know, you have a 24/7 access to do all the printmaking facilities. So I was like, I don't need my own studio. And also when you're insular like that, I feel like we're already in the pandemic is already so insular. Like you don't meet any others. You don't, create a community. You're not part of a community. And that's how I met my printmaker friends and my mentors, actually. So, yeah.
Well, and I think that's really important for a practice like printmaking, where you need all the equipment that is, if you were to do that yourself, would be ridiculously expensive.
Yeah. And like, I didn't know how to use sewing machine. I don't know how to do etching up until like a year ago. Like, I got a grant and I asked one of the artists, like, can you teach me how to do etching? And I will apply for this grant. I had to get the artist to say yes and write a letter to say, I will teach Ed this technique of etching of copper plate, and we did it. And like, now I know how to use it. So like, but I wouldn't have the opportunity to learn if I wasn't in the community. So I'm not saying like having your studio is horrible. Like, some people, like, I have moments where I'm like, don't talk to me, I'm working. When I'm printing, like, I put on a headphone and I roll my eye when people bother me. But like, I personally enjoy that aspect of it, and I find it has benefited me greatly. And not everybody is a social butterfly, So like, but being an artist so insular, it's not good. I don't like it. Yeah, I don't think it's a good way of being an artist, my opinion. Yeah. So then you're enclosed. You want to be open. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's great for feedback. It's great for advice to have other artists in your community. We had another comment from Joanne saying how she learned from community-based projects with Indigenous artists and learned Sćwk weaving and learned the Tsimshian traditional art. And and particularly in Indigenous cultures, that is how knowledge is transferred, through a mentor directly to a student. And, it is such a great way to learn. And, even just having other artists around you, you always learn something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find that very, very, there's moments to be yourself, but there's moments to be open. I think you need to have that balance, and, I get tired too. So like, like, I'm really tired right now. But yeah, I also enjoy it. That's what I'm trying to say. So I think it's also good to experiment and focus. Sometimes save your time to brainstorm, experiment. That's actually on my schedule too. It's like, today you're going to experiment with this. So, and participate, in collective art forms. And there's so many out there. I feel like there's always something being created, and not enough submission, actually. So you're thinking like, oh, I want to create one. Maybe you should look at joining one instead, my opinion.
Yeah. Wow, that's such a great tip. I love that you schedule experimentation time. I love that you schedule, writing days. I think that's just such a smart way to balance your time too. I think for a lot of, I know I'm the type of person that will put the writing off to the last minute, and then,
it's okay.
Because it's the not fun part, the making is the fun part. So I think that's a brilliant idea to schedule all that stuff.
If it helps, like, guys, I took a writing class 3 years ago at VCC. I took a continuing education writing class. It was just a writing skill class. I was like, I haven't written anything in a while. So yeah, so it helped. So there's no now, just do it.
Right.
If you can, just do it. Yeah. We live in a country that you can do a lot of these things. Like, I met artists from other countries, they can do, and so privileged, like, and entitled all the time, where I'm like, okay, why am I, like, it's okay to complain, but I personally feel like, well, I don't know how to write, let me learn how to write. Like, it's not the case for every places in the world. Like, it's usually not, actually. I've met artists from Africa or even Taiwan or Japan. Even Japan, it's like really difficult. So like, I think even in the States, I have most American friends who complain like they can't afford to quit because of healthcare. They need their healthcare. So I have friends who are like, you need to stop complaining, and you get arts grants. We don't even have that. That doesn't even exist. So it's so I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna. So I'm just saying, like, and then I turned 40 this year. I just turned 40, and like, I'm still learning new skills. So like, my mentor themselves are always learning new skills, even for me or from other artists. And my mentor, Brigitte Paramo, she's 79. So like, she's still learning. So it's like, you know, it's not about mastering anything. You know, if you want to master something, you'll master it. You do paper making for 50 years, then you can master it. Because that's truly how you master something. Yeah.
Right.
Printmaking too.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
yes.
yeah. Yeah.
Right. Well, I see we're kind of at the end of our time, and I don't see any other questions. I just say a lot of thank yous. And I'm sorry for tonight, the chat being disabled. I'm on my own tonight, so I was trying to manage it all. But thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you, Ed, for the great tips. I think you did offer a lot of great advice. I think, you know, artists that are out there, I think just connecting with each other, I think will be a really great thing for you to learn from each other. And I'm hoping that's what this Artist Salon community kind of does, is to kind of help artists learn from each other. So thank you so much, Edward, tonight for everything.
Can I plug in a few things?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have so Museum of Vancouver, my show's coming up called In Reflection Across the Shore, and it's 2-person show with another queer Taiwanese artist. So she's here with me to create. We've been collaborating for the past year. It's a paper show. It's in the Museum of Vancouver. It opens on August 5th till November 7th. Go on the website. You'll see it right now. It just released. Marketing will start coming out. And then this Sunday, I have an artist talk, a guest artist talk. I'm not talking. I'm inviting another artist, Gina Page. She's a really veteran artist in bookbinding and paper making. And she's going to show, I'm going to present her. She's also a printmaker. That's why I know her. But she's Richmond based. So we have this Sunday at Pollock Park at Urban Bounty, 10:30 a.m. till 12 p.m. So come, if you haven't registered, go to my website at xwl.com, click on the Richmond Artist Residency. You'll see it the first thing, click on that, and then you'll see like the sign up for it. If you forget to sign up, just come anyways. So limited seating, but it's pretty much unlimited. We have 9 people registered and it's meant for 20. So yeah, and she has beautiful work to show. Yeah. So
great. Well, thanks. So yeah, for everyone, you know, go on Ed's website and you'll find all that information there. I'll include some links once this goes on to video as well. But thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Edward. I do hope you can join us again next month. We will have a completely different topic. We will have the curator from the RBC collection will be joining us from Toronto to talk about collections for corporations, which is very different world. So hopefully you can all join us then. And again, thank you all so much for tuning in, and thank you so much, Edward, for sharing your knowledge with us tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys. All right, make art. Not war.
Yes.
Bye.
Yes. Bye, everybody. Good night.